Hello and welcome to another episode of Reseller Information Network. I'm pretty sure this is episode 69, folks.
I think it's
69.
69 or 68.
68 is the one we recorded last time, so it'll be
Oh,
69.
what? Oh, 69 actually. Right?
Yeah, 69. So man, we're almost. I mean, we're definitely in the elderly category at this point, but we're cruising right along on the way to 100, and also we're cruising right along on the. Despite what Thatcher says, I think we're growing into a fine young man as far as the channel uh, membership and also subscribers. We do thank each and every one of you guys who are subscribed. We are over 3,100 now. We're on the push to 4K. So if you're here and you're not subscribed, now's your chance. You can correct that. It doesn't cost you a dime to do that. Just hit that subscribe and the little bell, and then you'll get notified whenever we're live or whether we are dropping these pre-record knowledge bombs. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that as resellers, we have oftentimes talked about. Sometimes you got to bob and weave. Sometimes you got to adapt, move a little different than the way you have before. And sometimes you have to expand your horizons. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about just that, stepping out of the box and doing something different. So we are going to go around and look at that. We do appreciate all you guys who have dropped comments this over the past several weeks. We thank you as always, Miss Jacqueline Rose, for the 4-heart comment drop. We also had a couple folks talking about just waiting for garage sale season. Ozark Treasure Hunters says he thought about the possibility of having other resellers on. We will be having more resellers on very soon. And let me see, a random event idea from Doing It Wrong. This is something we may have to work on. Says all 4 of you pack a standard size ceramic mug. I think we could all learn from those unique techniques. I'll just be honest, man. I haven't sold a mug since year 1 because, and I did pick up some early on. I have sold something recently along those lines. I think the last mug that I sold was a Hardee's coffee mug. And how did I pack it? I made it a ball of bubble and shoved it in a box. But I don't know. I mean, do ceramic mugs? Do those go in poly bags? Is that what we do? Is that how they work?
Maybe, I think so.
Is that a poly bag shipper? I remember Kevin doing a video a long time ago about how they fit in a certain size box. You could make them come in under a pound if you put them in a certain size box. I don't know. Pack a mug. I would rather participate and pack the most unusual item and see what you do with that. I know because I've got a cheat code. I take it to the shipping center. Yeah. Hey, so we want to dive in though. Let's talk about these stepping outside of your comfort zone. Now, these guys, we all have some specialities. I'm probably the least special among all these folks when it comes to the having something that's like you're locked in on. I have locked in on numerous things. I do like hats. Shout out Cernoch, Tim. Even back in the day, hey, what about a little blast from the past? I remember a guy named Calvin doing hat little demo with you guys. I don't even think he's around in the YouTube world anymore, but I remember hazmats and snapbacks back in the day. Cernoch and Tim doing that, and Cernoch introduced me to the wonderful world of hats. Honestly, my grandpa, my pop, he was always rocking the old vintage hats. So that's something I'm into, but I've stepped out, and I know there's other folks that have stepped out recently. Leroy, we're going to go ahead and jump in. And Leroy, everybody says Leroy's the tool guy. Now for me, I get the behind the scenes a lot of times with Leroy. So I know there's more to Leroy than just tools. But Leroy, what's your latest adventure buying?
All right, guys. So the way that I do it is if it's a bulk buy, and I see something that's out, something that I want to learn about. It's not going to be something that like I totally like don't want to learn about, but if it's something I want to learn about and it's a bulk buy, I'm definitely gonna research it. And if I'm getting it cheap, so I got this stuff last weekend, and it was drafting stuff. So I made lots. So it was drafting instruments, pencils, rulers, all for drafting. And I got a bunch of them here. I got like 4 or 5 different lots. Made them up, and as I was making up the lots, I'd pull 1 or 2 out that looked interesting and said, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I should see. What is this worth? What's this drafting pencil worth? Is this worth putting it in the lot with everything else, or what are these worth? The vintage. Is it worth putting it in the lot with everything else, or is it worth just lotting it all up and selling a $60 lot? And would I pay for the box $10 and make $125 off of 2 lots? That's something that I'll do if I know it's an easy ship. Remember, don't do it if it's not an easy ship. If it's a bunch of but if anything with parts, guys, like guitar parts, you go and somebody might change their guitar or something like that. I also got this weekend. I got some aviation parts, so some airplane parts, airplane headphones, and I got a whole bunch of these airplane maps. Aviation, there's different states and just different areas, and it's the coolest thing. Some of them are 1959, and some of them are 1960s. I got a whole envelope of them, and just like a American Airlines for pilots. Like this is like stuff for pilots and the different planes. So like I'm excited about it because it's something that I don't normally do on an everyday basis, and it didn't cost me anything. I promise you, I probably paid like $10 for that stuff, and I'll probably make a couple $100 on it. I'm pretty sure I will.
And
so that kind of
new.
And you learn something new. That kind of stuff is, I could show you this that I got this weekend, but this isn't something that's out of my wheelhouse. It's just it's advertisement. I don't really deal with advertisement, but all the nails are there. And then if you look at it good, look where it's from, baby. Massachusetts, Bridgewater, about 30 minutes from home. So that's cool, but that's not something that I'm gonna learn off of like what they're going to with the drafting equipment, which I did do drafting back in high school, and I was pretty good at it. But so it's that kind of stuff that intrigues me, and then the airplane stuff. So how about you guys?
So we want to check in too. I know Tim like did some crazy stuff the other day on an auction with something new that is probably out of his comfort zone to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, it's not like I've bought like this stuff before, but so my father was, for those of you that don't know, my mom and my dad both collected and were dealers. My father got big into dollhouse miniatures because he was building a dollhouse for my sister. And my mom has had these, and this thing was completely filled. This thing right here was completely filled right here. Dollhouse minis, right? And I had broke into it once before, and I sold a couple of pieces on Etsy for like $25. But these tubs have been traveling with me through storage units, different houses, all over, and I've been lugging them around and never really got into it. And for those of you that don't know, I'm trying to like sell everything. So I started pulling these miniatures out to do a live sale. And then as I was researching them for the live sale, I found like, whoa, this stuff is like super. A lot of this stuff sells for crazy money. And so like, look at this. Like this is like a little drop leaf table. I mean,
Oh my God.
It's got hinges and everything.
I love stuff like
It's crazy. Very, very cool. Look at this thing. Look at the details on this. It's wild. So, and like this one right here, I've just listed this. I sold one on One Stop Shop, but like this is like, I'm sure you guys have seen these like the big versions. Come on. It's never gonna catch focus. Come on! Nope. But it's like a salt glaze picture. And this is actually signed by the artist. And I had the paperwork with it too. This is like a $30 piece, this little thing right here. Some of these things can sell for hundreds of dollars. It's crazy. Like this little like wood like vase, and it's like little case. And then I found these little bears that are like jointed and they're signed by the artist. Like these sell for like $30. I mean, it's all types of. Look at this. This is a bag of miniature paperweights. Everybody knows how crazy paperweights are right now. How about miniature paperweights? I'm like, I don't even know what to do with these. Like it was super fascinating. And apparently there's a lot of people and some of our viewers who dabble in this stuff. And it's really like, I was like, I know that if I look it up on YouTube, I'll go down the rabbit hole of like watching people make it. But like for me, like that's something now that like if I see like now I might be a little bit more enticed to pick it up, right? Because look, it's easy to store, easy to ship. You can get it probably at good prices. You can lot it up. You can sell it live. You can list it on eBay, Etsy, Mercari, like all of the above. So for me, like when I'm like learning something new and like I look at those like deciding factors, and like Leroy said, like if you can get it like cheap enough, like all we've bought in Leroy and I both have bought in car emblem lots before. You know what I'm saying? And like I just sold one yesterday, and it's just like sometimes you just and this was like a good little point too. Like if you're like out of the thrift store, the flea market, the auction house, right? Like you're not finding anything that's your like in your wheelhouse, right? You can't just it's a perfect opportunity to just pick something up. Like a lot of times, like you can tell, like feel how something looks, like if it just looks unique or weird or old or feels of good quality. Like I mean, Cernoch, I'm sure can tell you the same thing with like clothes and tools with Leroy. Like all of those things can play into factors into anything else outside of your wheelhouse. So just pick it up. Like, you know how many times I've bought in a piece of clothing like I had knew nothing about, just looked up the brand name because I felt like it felt like of good quality, and it turned out to be like a $200 item. Like I would have, just because you don't know doesn't mean that it's not worth something. And I mean, like for me, it's like take the opportunity sometimes when you're out and about to pick something up, even if it's one or two things. You pick it up when you're out there, look it up. And now you just put that in the memory bank. It's important. So for me, the dollhouse stuff has been really cool, and I did really well with it in the first auction on One Stop Shop. If you guys aren't members of the One Stop Shop, there's a link in the description below. Go become a member. And so I listed a few items, and we'll see how it goes. I burned through almost more than half of the stuff that I had. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Cernoch, I know that you also just hit. I mean, of course, I know he's always finding some random stuff at the thrift store, but something particular that's super valuable that probably may be overlooked. I know Cernoch is.
So kind of what Tim was talking about. Once you're in the game long enough, you know what quality is. You see no matter if you're in tools or clothing or shoes, engine parts, books, you know what I'm saying? All these things have a certain like aesthetic of value where sometimes, you may know nothing about that thing, but you pause and go, wait a minute. This looks very, very interesting, or this looks high end. This feels high end. And then so you do some research. So I was at Goodwill the other day. Okay, we'll say it was a Friday night. Went to Goodwill on a Friday night. So went to jacket. I always hit the jackets first. I love jackets, so it's like, all right, go to the jackets first, and then they have the shoes like right above the jackets. So it's like, all right, while we're hitting the jackets, we can look up there, see any shoes. So jackets, shoes, T-shirts at this Goodwill are always pilfered through. So it's kind of like, you know what? If there's a T-shirt there, it ain't gonna be there. Just let the kids get that or whatever. And then I'll look at the women's jackets. I'll look at some of the women's sweaters. Not as much women's stuff. Maybe a little bit of the shoes. But as I'm basically there at Goodwill just so I don't have to sit in 5 o'clock afternoon traffic. So I'm like, okay, let's just go by. So I go by the book section, and I always just glance at the books. I just glance at the books, and it never, if something pops out at me, I may stop and look at it. But usually it's like, okay, saw what I need to see. And they have the DVDs, the VHSs right there. So I'm like, sometimes like, well, maybe in the DVDs they have a game that's mixed up in there, or something, maybe a GameCube game or something. Because I know sometimes the Nintendo GameCube games get overlooked and put with the DVDs since they came in more of a DVD box. So as I'm walking though by the books, there's a cart full of books too that I guess they were starting to put out. And I look and I see a few books on top that look very interesting. So I see leather-bound books in beautiful condition. But the thing about the leather-bound books are they had a like a gold print artwork on it too that went with the leather and everything. And I was like, whoa, time out. This looks kind of, so I picked one up. I picked one up. And this is kind of an example. I picked one up and I looked at it and I was like, and see how that's something you don't see every day with books, So I'm like, this is interesting. And then you see, the gold and everything, got the bookmark and everything. And as I open one of these books up, I'm like, oh, there's stuff inside. So I said, well, what is this stuff inside? Because I saw signed first edition. Let's see if that can. Signed first edition right there. Okay. So I'm like, oh, are these signed? So, but the first thing I saw was these two pieces of paper. And I'm like, okay, a note about the, this and everything. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Then I was like, wait a minute. Certificate of authenticity. I'm like, now, if you know anything about baseball cards, collectibles, like, hey, is it got a COA with it? So I'm like, wait, COA with this? Then I turned the page, and then I was like, oh, the artist, and they're numbered. Okay, so I got,
their phone number.
No, they're numbered. They're not.
Oh. I thought you said and their number. I was about to say, damn, let's call them right now.
Signed and numbered. So 130, like hand signed out of, so 130 out of 1,000. So again, it tells me COA, signed, numbered, very nice.
Sounds like you're talking about a sports card right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're like, so if you think about sports cards, sports collectibles, if you've been in that realm and you see something like this, you're like, wait, this has a perceived value to it. And that's why I was like, okay, let me start digging in a little bit more. Now, I didn't want to alert anybody to where I was, like what I was looking at. So I was just kind of keeping it on the down low, and so I made a phone call and I had someone in my ear and I was like, hey, check this stuff out for me. And the person's like, yeah, this is pretty interesting. I was like, he goes, it's hard to say, but I don't know what titles you have, but I would say like $35 to $50, on the low. And I'm like, okay, 30 to 50. Now they were $3 a piece and they had a cart of them. So I was like, well, do I go in and do I look up every single book, artist or the author, book title? I'm like, man, I ain't got we ain't got time for that. There's like 30 to 40 books here. So I said, well, here's the decision. Leave them or get them all. And I was hemming and hawing, and I was like, man, I think I'm just gonna get them. Like, because even if I had to sell them at $30 a piece, maybe I can lot some up together. Maybe I can do all these things. I can lot them up, sell them as a set or something like that. Who knows? So I was like, so I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna lot them up. If all ends, I'll lot them up. Get my initial $120 back. There was 40 books. I bought 40 books, $3 a piece. So I spent $120. Now, that's rare that I'm gonna spend $120 on books. But something said, I know this is outside your comfort zone. There may be something in there we're not seeing that's maybe a higher price. Let's just get all of it and see what happens. And I'm glad I did because out of the 40 books that I got, about 28 of them, I think 28 of them were the signed copies. Okay, the signed copies that had the COA and all that stuff. And then there was one set of books that it was a volume 1 and volume 2. That was the only one that did. Well, come to find out, that double volume set was the cream of the crop. Okay, because inside, it didn't say signed edition on it, but inside it had the COA and it was signed. So when I was listing them all, I took all the pictures, and when I was listing them all, I came by this one. I said, "Oh, this one's the money one. This one's the money." And in a day, that 2-volume set sold for $270. It's already been shipped out. It's already gone. So I've already, that hunch, I've already doubled, like basically after fees and everything, literally doubled what I paid for it. Okay. And then I go outside and look back in my car. Oh, there's another random book just sitting there I didn't grab the night before. And I was like, oh, Ender's Game. I've heard of this book. So I go research this one because I had already pictured and listed. I grinded on that Sunday where I just said, hey, I'm going to list all 40 books. And then when I went out of the car, this one was sitting there. And I said, well, let's list this one too. Let's put it the same way. I stacked up all the books. I put it in there real nicely. Had a beautiful background. Did not need, I love me some photo room, but I did not need photo room for this one. And I had all the background and everything. So I said, hey, just pop this one in there real quick. Boom. About 8 pictures later, I uploaded it, put in the author, did all that stuff. This book right here, I got to send it out today. And I know y'all going to be watching it, a little bit later. But this book today, Ender's Game, sold for $100 straight up. $100. So, that like I said, and there's a signature and everything like that. This is one of the older ones that they didn't number, but it's signed. So what happens is, I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I spent $120 on something taking a chance on. But again, all this knowledge that I've built up through the years, not in books, but just everything else, and even things I don't buy, but I still research, like, sports cards. I don't do anything with really sports cards, but I know about them. So if I see something out there, so it's like that kind of like, said, hey, this is something special, get it. And the investment has paid off. 2 sales, I'm at what? $370, probably $320 in the profit already. So I've already made $200 on that, and I have 38 books left. So it's a win-win for me. So by just doing those things, I found it was very successful, even though I had to step out of my comfort zone and spend a little bit more money than I was kind of really wanting to. I came out ahead in the end.
Yeah, I stepped out of my comfort zone actually today because I bought not one but 2 Redskin hats. So, like, completely out of my comfort zone, but no. On a serious note, we do, like, just like these guys are saying, like, sometimes, I mean, for me, it's always like challenge accepted. If I go out and can't find what I'm looking for, it's always like, okay, so what else is here? And then you just keep digging and keep going, and eventually you run up on stuff that you're. This last buy for me, I have dabbled a little bit in the world of parts. What I've dealt with before was boat parts and lawnmower parts, was kind of like mostly what I've dealt with. But I actually went to an auction that was not just auto parts, but performance racing auto parts, which is a different animal entirely. And I'll tell you, there is a learning curve. For me, so I got loads of these pistons. Believe it or not, guys, this number on the back of it is measurements. It's to do with measurements. It's to do with a size bore of where this thing fits in a motor. Like, this is a piston that would run up and down. This thing is attached to a rod that actually pushes up and down and causes compression, causes your engine to work. Like, these are things I've learned about. What I've learned is there's standard pistons, and they don't look like this. They're not as big usually. They're a little smaller. And these, they actually bore out. They make the holes bigger for racing motors so they can push more horsepower. So all these numbers mean stuff. That first is talking about the size bore hole, and then the second is talking about the size motor. So it's kind of crazy, like, to learn about some of that stuff. But it's things that, honestly, when I first looked at this, I was like, dude, that's got to be the item number. Good luck. If you punch this in, you're gonna get nothing. That's just where it's at. And like this particular one, this is heavy, so I won't hold it for long. It actually does have parts on the end. It tells you what it's going for. But this is also made in Germany. So to find this part takes a lot of doing. So sometimes when you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you're going to have to do something. Now, what I typically do, and this is something I'll just tell you, for me, I know that these have value. I didn't know what that value is until I began to do some research. And then you find that there's some that are better than others. There's some the sell-through is better than others. Guys, I was buying these 3 sets for $5 at an auction. At that point, I don't mind paying for an education. I don't mind. I have already moved some of them wholesale to another. Shout out Ots Antiques, who put me in the auto part. I moved some to him, but also I sold my first set the other day, $132. Actually, yesterday, $132, one set of 4 pistons. These are sets of 8 pistons. Depending on the name brand, the most expensive one I have is $295. So, like, guys, here's my advice to you. If you're willing to take a chance on items, just like Cernoch's talking about, you've got some things that not everything's equal, right? You got $30 books, you got $200 books. I got $50 pistons. I've got $300 pistons. Like, so there's one of those things. But here's the benefit of taking a chance and stepping out. Just like all these guys have talked about, everything that they talked about today had to do with they bought hedge your bets, right? If you have enough of something in there is bound to be worth something. Like, and if not, then you can also lot it up. Like, for me, honestly, I've got some other auto parts that I've put in lots, like Leroy was talking about on Tuesdays listing and loafing 3 weeks ago. He was talking about, hey, if you would lot some things together, then you can create more income even with that. So for me, if I can't find it, like if it's too complicated to find it at times, and I've done this with a lot of things. My reselling journey started with action figures. Now I was a comic book kid. I used to read the comics, So I knew X-Men, but I didn't know there's 95 variants of the same figure. And you can get into some rabbit holes. So basically, you need to balance your time versus what you need to make off these things versus. So like a lot of times for me, what I would do is list stuff, and then somebody's going to tell you if you list it wrong. To be honest, like they will tell you, but also you can look at other resources. So what I've done for these to research is I actually go in and type in Google, and then there's various automotive racing performance shops that have what this is. And not only they have what it is, shout out Summit Racing. Thank you so much for all the listings. So they not only have what it is, but they have the specs. When it comes to selling parts, you need the specs. Otherwise, you'll get what we talked about 2 weeks ago about the return situation. you get into some returns because if you send out the spec and you're saying it's this, but it's that, yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure. So for me, my advice to you as far as stepping out of your comfort zone, don't be afraid of it, but also it's calculated risk, right? It's not like I'm completely just gambling, like just throwing money in the wind. What I'm saying is it's a calculated risk. Like Cernoch said, $120. He's taken $120 education, and now he's going to end up probably making cut $2 or $3 grand off that if everything sells. And some of it may not sell as quickly, and some of it would. I mean, for me, I did take the advice of Leroy on these pistons. I'm the cheapest thing out there. I can tell you that. I'm the cheapest one out there right now because for me, I'm not an expert about this. And someone's more like, because I have had people ask me questions so far about this, and I don't know. I'll just be straight up. I do not know. Like I can punch it in, but if you say, hey, this is for a 1974 Laredo bore 5, like, dude, you lost me. I don't know what you're talking about. Like I don't know about the motors. I don't know anything about it. If I can put as many specs in there as possible and hopefully get less questions and just sell it out there. And honestly, I'm liable to. You never know. Once I've made my money on some of this stuff, I'm liable to say, hey, pass it on. Like somebody who's a motor guy, here you go. Like let's go on and get a little wholesale action going. So for me, I mean, when you do talk about taking a chance, guys, it is, and I know Cernoch said it. These guys have said it, Tim and Leroy. When you do this enough, you can like, it's almost like the sixth sense, right? It's like this thing that you can kind of look and say, there's something here. Like you begin to get a sense and a feel for quality for one. I know for me, for clothing, it's so weird. Like when I first started, I'm like looking at every tag and looking it up, and now literally you can walk down the rack and feel it for the most part. Nope. Like you can do that kind of stuff, and with things that are crafted, like Tim talks about it all the time with glass. Like you can pick up something that's crafted and say, you know what, this is good stuff. With Leroy, with tools, like, I mean, dude, if you pick up that China wrench, I'll just tell you, man, like there's a difference in weight and feel and all those kind of things. So like, just use what your senses about the thing. But as you grow in this, like, guys, you can feel quality. You can go here. Here's just a little homework for you folks. Just a little homework. I don't know if you have a Dollar Tree in your town, a Dollar General. Go to Dollar General and just feel some stuff. And then when you're out there, just pick some stuff up and be like, oh, yeah, I get what you're saying now. And now you go over to, a more quality establishment. I don't know where that'd be, but like you go over and you can feel the difference. Like you feel the older stuff that's quality built, stuff. It feels different. It feels different. So, I mean, just those are some tips that we can pass on to you guys when it comes to it. Don't be afraid. Hey, no risk, no reward. Just to make a calculated risk. That's how it works. Hey, we do appreciate you guys for joining us once again, and we thank each and every one of you guys for being here. Don't forget to check us out next week. I will be back live from India. Maybe a little jet lag, but we're going to be listing and loafing. So come on by on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Cernoch, you got anything?
Man, I think we had a great conversation about just like, stepping out of your comfort zone. You know, again, to start developing that eye of quality. I can say that goes so far for what I do and the things that I sell. You know, it's funny kind of, you know, seeing people that, hey, you know, someone says, you know, you see it all the time in other channels. Oh, eBay's not, I can't sell anything. And, all right, well, let me take a look at your store. And you look at their store, it's like, yo, this is just garage sale leftovers. And you have 13,000 items of garage sale leftovers. Where's the quality? And that's where it's like, hey, yeah, it's great to list it, make some money. But once we start evolving, once we start adapting, it's getting those quality items in front of people. Yes, we can go out any day and spend $200 and come home with a load full of stuff, but is it quality stuff? Is it stuff that people want? So that's one of these things that I've been looking at this year is it's quality over quantity, where I can walk in and say, hey, and I know the book example, you know, but those are 40 quality books that were easy listings and bam, they're all up already. But what I'm saying is, you know, those, you know, small nickel and dime items, hey, let's start looking for quality instead of quantity, you know. So hopefully this kind of helped y'all, you know, stepping outside your game, but still getting quality stuff.
Leroy?
Yeah, you know, these guys make a lot of sense. You know, you gotta trust your gut a little bit sometimes. And if you pick it up, like you said, and or if you're at a sale and the prices are way too cheap, the prices are just way too cheap, just keep grabbing stuff. Just grab stuff. Just if you know that you would normally pay $10 for it and they're telling you $2 or $1, just grab it, because you can always bring it back to Goodwill. It's okay.
That's
true.
True.
Yeah. So, you know, this was a really, really great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We do want to thank all of our channel members. We wanted to keep you guys on your toes because you guys thought that we forgot you. We didn't forget you. We just wanted to keep you on your toes. We don't always have to say your name. You know your name, boo. All right? So we know your name. If you're here, if you're still here watching this, we know you. We know who you are. You know who you are. Thank you for the channel members, and I'm out.
We'll do it now.
No.
Yeah, it's only fitting. This is how we'll go out. Shout out to everybody for watching. We appreciate all the love and all the support, especially from our channel members. AZ Katsu, Simply Shenanigan Shanna, Diane Matthews, Blood, Sweat, and Cell, Trash Cat Rescue, New England Betty Boop, Joe Deals, Old School Picker, Vintage Sport Flips, Charities, Terrific Funds, Kathleen, the Fernway Flipper, Ohio Pickers, Annette and Frank, Rudely Retro, Absolute Finds, Des Hardy, Heather Peddler, James Steinbreaker, Old Paths, High Plains Flipper, Walter Tilton, Black Sheep Society, Jeff Pile Picker, Mark Rollins, Tracer J's Trading, Aaron Vaughn, Central Iowa Picker, and we're Wiggle Room 9. And don't forget, most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, tell a friend about RIN, Reseller Information Network.